over in verse 6, it says, do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. Now, walking by faith is like walking on the edge of a knife. I mean, you can fall on either side. So you have to keep dead center on the truth, or else you can err on each side, fall off either side. The Lord commands us not to condemn or censor our brother, yet he also commands us not to go to the other extreme and be lacking in spiritual discernment. And be so lacking in spiritual discernment that we surrender the holy things in the situation and the holy responsibility to those on the outside of the situation. So, dogs in Jesus' day were wild scavengers. They were unclean. And pigs in the Old Testament were unclean animals, and the Jews were not to eat them or touch them, or they would be ceremonially unclean. So dogs and pigs are unholy, unclean people who treat the gospel with scorn and contempt. What is sacred refers to the special consecrated food that only the priest and their families ate. That's in Exodus 29, Leviticus 2, and Numbers 18. So it would be unthinkable to give sacred food to scavenger dogs, just like it'd be futile to throw your pearls to the pigs. Pigs don't realize the value of pearls. And all they know is they can't eat them, so they trample them in the mud. See what I mean? So what is sacred? And pearls picture the teaching of the gospel of the kingdom. And Jesus explained that it was futile to teach the gospel to people who didn't want to listen. And many times they'd only tear it apart. And you've run into that situation many times. And I think that's why people are a little bit hesitant to witness sometimes. But contemptuous, evil people can't grasp the value of the gospel. And so we have to discern when we're giving God's message out to unbelievers. And you don't want to bring scorn to it. And you have to let God's light become apparent to them, in other ways. In another sermon, the Lord told us that we are to be as harmless as a dove, and we're to be as wise as serpents. Seems like an odd statement, doesn't it? Well, we have to learn from God which aspect of the truth to give each person. We have to understand they can't receive it all in one bite. It'd be more than a mouthful. So we can't force the most intimate, priceless teachings of the Lord on those that obviously show they do not want it. And you don't regard them as hopeless. You just have to understand. And I'm sure each of us have someone in our sphere of influence or in our family that absolutely will not receive God's gift of salvation from you or me. But someone they run into or something will happen that they receive it from someone somewhere else. And you have to, don't give up hope. You have to keep praying that they will receive it. You know they will. And it probably won't be from you. So a lot of times we just have to back off and let God do what he's going to do so they can see his light. We just have to live our Christian life continuously before people to convince them. And we all make mistakes. We all mess up sometimes. But Christ's conduct on the cross convinced that dying thief that was next to him that he was the Messiah, that he would remove his sin. He was dying for him, and the thief received it. That was over in Acts 13, verse 46, and also in chapter 18, verse 6 of Acts.